Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time for the 12-team playoff, the first year of it this year. So we're going to just be looking at the matchups, and I'm going to be giving you my prediction for what I think is going to happen this year in the first ever 12-team playoff. So getting right into it, we got the first round matchup between Indiana and Notre Dame. That one's tonight in a couple hours. I think Notre Dame's run game is going to be key, but we're going to have to see how Jeremiah Love, what he does, because he is a force to be reckoned with. And I want to see Notre Dame, I want to see Freeman call a bunch of runs specifically for Love, probably to the outside. That's what I want to see. And just being able to break off those runs is what I think is going to happen. And then from there, you're going to be able to manufacture a passing game. With the passing game, you're going to be able to open up everything. And I think that works on Indiana. We saw Ohio State blitz Indiana all day long, and there's nothing Indiana could do to stop it. They don't have the guys up front. They can't defend it. And I think it's going to come down to like athletes. In my opinion, Notre Dame has a better athletes. They're just better on the offensive end. They got better athletes. So I'm going to be rocking with Notre Dame because Indiana just isn't tested right now. They just don't have enough. They lack of experience, in my opinion. So I'm going to be rocking with Indiana to lose to Notre Dame. I'm going to say 42-17 Notre Dame. Absolute blowout. I just don't think Indiana's been tested enough. Getting on to the next game, and one of my personal favorites that I've been back and forth with is the Penn State SMU game, which kicks off at noon on Saturday. I think that you're going to have Kelvin Jennings have a game of his life. I think he is a great matchup versus this Penn State defense. Now, with that being said, I don't like Penn State's offense playing against SMU's defense. I think Katron Allen is going to tear them apart, and it is going to backfire completely, and it's going to be a shootout between these two teams. And it's going to come down to who can make the plays when it matters, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think it will. I don't think it's going to be a two-score game. I think it'll be one score come down to the wire. And I think just having more athletes again in this scenario with guys that are battle-tested already, with Penn State playing Ohio State, that's better competition than SMU's played all year. You're going to have Penn State and SMU just battling it out. It's going to be down to the wire. And it's who you trust more at QB. And do you trust Kelvin Jennings, who's led multiple game-winning drives against Duke, nearly against Clemson until the 56-yard kick ended it. And I don't know who I trust, but the reason we're here is because we're take chances. And I just like Kelvin Jennings and how he plays versus this Penn State defense. I don't care that Tyler Warren, Drew Aller, Katron Allen, doesn't matter to me because they can come out and do whatever they want. But James Franklin is a big game choke artist, and I think Kelvin Jennings can tear them apart, and I'm going to be rocking with them to beat Penn State in an absolute stunner in the first round. And I'm going to say 31-34, SMU wins on a game-winning kick. So that's my prediction for the second game. Getting into the third game, Texas and Clemson, pretty good matchup between two, what I'd say, newer powerhouses. I mean, you can argue Texas past 15 years or constant, but new powerhouses for this generation right here. And I'm interested to see who Texas brings out on Saturday because there's been a lot of talk with Quinn Ewers transferring, getting offered a bunch of money, I think millions of dollars to go transfer to some Big Ten school. We don't know who it is, but I'd bet it's Ohio State. But I'm interested to see who comes out, if it's Quinn Ewers or Arch Manning, and who they trust more when it comes down to it. Who Steve Sarkisian is going to put in position, in control of that offense with a bunch of athletes like Isaiah Bond out there and Jaden Blue. You're going to have playmakers on that Texas sideline. Could be Arch Manning, could be Quinn Ewers, and you're going to be sitting there questioning, what are we going to do? What are we going to do with them? And nobody's talking about Clemson. Nobody's talking about how Clemson snuck their way into that playoff. They didn't Just Dabo Swinney was like, they'd hate to see us in the playoff. I'd argue that any team would love to see him in the playoff, but that's besides the point. Again, I really think it come down to QB play. Just later in the season, it's going to come down to that because you're going to have everybody be motivated, but it matters most who has the ball in their hands most of the time, and that's the quarterback. So who do I trust more, Arch Manning or Quinn Ewers or Cade Klubnik? And I trust either Texas quarterback tenfold rather than Cade Klubnik. I think Cade Klubnik's been pretty inconsistent on the year. He hasn't done too much game selling, and against that Pittsburgh game, however, he had the game sealing touchdown with the 50-yard run to end it. And I just trust that Texas can get the job done with their defense. I just don't think Clemson's good enough to keep up on the offensive end with what Texas can put up on the other end. And I just think Texas can not rout them, but just keep them at a arm's width. Just keep them away. And I think that's what they're going to do. And I'll take Texas, I'd say 34-21. So I think Texas covers. Now, for the last game in my game of the week, being a Vols fan, is the Tennessee versus Ohio State matchup. And this I've gone back and forth on for a while. I can't seem to think of who is going to step up. It's going to be Ryan Day coming off his worst loss at Ohio State to this point, or will be the surging Vols who have been there never but are coming off of a great game versus a good Vanderbilt team, not a great one, but a good Vanderbilt team who put up a test against Texas, and they gave Alabama more than they could handle. And I don't know is the issue. This is the closest game in the first round. Now, some people may argue that it could be Notre Dame, Indiana. That thing's not going to be close. I can't seem to think about who I trust more. And when it's a game this close, in my opinion, you go with the quarterback. Now, most people are going to be like, oh, Will Howard. Will Howard, hands down. Because bro's 28 years old in college, just doing his thing. Kansas State transfer. He knows what he's doing. He had one slip up earlier in the year when he played at Oregon and sold the game for him. There's no other words to put it. He sold the game. And I don't know. Nico Yamalieva had something similar happen to him, being when he played Arkansas, drove him down the field with a beautiful post route to Deontay Thornton, set him up at the 30, and then with about 6 seconds left, he ran out of bounds and took up all the time, and that was it. He didn't even launch it into the end zone. Gave me flashbacks of the Joe Milton Ole Miss game. Now, it is going to be Dylan Sampson versus that OSU defense. If Dylan Sampson can break off those 8, 9, 12, and then a 20-yard run, right? Like we've seen in the Vanderbilt, the Alabama, and the Florida game, when he's able to do that, this Tennessee offense is able to surge. They are able to facilitate the ball to everyone out there. Thornton, White, McCoy, you name it. They are getting the ball to them. Matthews, States. These guys are athletes in their positions. Now, we haven't seen much of them getting those home run plays because Yamalieva can't seem to reel them in. And when he did against Alabama, Mississippi State, and Kentucky, he lit them up. He played his best games of the year. But I'd argue his Vanderbilt game was the best. Now, going to that OSU defense, you got guys like Jack Sawyers and Caleb Downs. Those guys are dogs. Caleb Downs can read a defense like crazy, and we have seen it multiple times, and from both these guys actually. In the Michigan game, Jack Sawyers, what looked to be I would say, setting up the game with a pick. It was a perfect pick, perfect read on the play, and then Ohio State does nothing with it. Now, it's going to be a heck of a lot harder defense to play against, especially being at home, but not really at home from what sources are saying. Now, I think it's going to be like 35-65 Ohio State, but that's still not ideally where you want to have it if you're an Ohio State fan. And I want to think that Tennessee can do better than that. But eventually, what I think it's going to come down to is if Ohio State can put that ball on the ground. Every team that we've seen beat Tennessee, Arkansas, and Georgia, the only two, they have put that ball on the ground versus Tennessee. Now, it's going to come down to whose rushing game is better. And you got Quinston Judkins on Ohio State versus Dylan Sampson. Two great running backs. And I want to say that Tennessee's running back core is deeper, but it's not. You got Travion Henderson backing up. And that guy is a beast, especially for a backup running back. Probably one of the best, top 5 in college football. Now, with that being said, though, I think Tennessee can get it done. In the wise words of Lee Corso, not so fast. Not so fast, my friend. Now, I'm going to take Ohio State to not blow them out, not winning a big one, but I think it'll be similar to that Michigan game, just a little bit more high scoring. I think it's like a 20-16 game, and I'm going to take Ohio State to win. That's my first round picks. Now we can get into the second round, where we have SMU playing Boise State in my first one that I'm going to review. Now, SMU, like I was saying earlier, they don't have a good rushing defense. And who just happens to be the best running back in college football? That's right, Ashton Jeanty. Now, what do I think is going to happen? I think Boise State's going to put that ball on the ground a lot more than people think they will. I think Ashton Jeanty is going to get upwards of 45 carries. And regardless of who they play, if it's SMU or Penn State, I think they're going to put that ball on the ground and force feed Ashton Jeanty. Make him make the plays. And I'm going to take Boise State to beat SMU, even though I believe in Kelvin Jennings. I think he's a great athlete. I just don't think it'll be enough. I think Ashton Jeanty is going to be motivated by that Heisman loss that he needs. He just needs it. He's going to be more motivated than ever. And I trust him to make the plays when it matters. And big-time players make big-time plays in big-time moments. Famous quote. And I think Ashton Jeanty is a big-time player who will make big-time plays in a big-time moment. And I'm going to take Boise State to knock off SMU. I'm going to say, in a decently high-scoring affair, 37-28. For the next matchup, we got Notre Dame versus Georgia in the Orange Bowl. Now, Georgia's rushing defense is going to be the key in this game because of who is in the backfield for Notre Dame. You got Riley Leonard, mainly a scrambler. I'd say his best part of his game is scrambling out the pocket. We've seen him light Navy up with about 150 rushing yards. And we've also seen Jeremiah Love dismantle the forces through his forceful running game. Now, who do I think can come up on top between these two? I think Georgia. I just trust Georgia more. Georgia's been in this scenario multiple times, and Marcus Freeman hasn't been in this situation. He already lost to Northern Illinois, which most people are going to wipe off as a clean slate this year. They're not thinking about it. And I just believe in Georgia. I trust Kirby Smart to make the plays when it comes down the stretch. He's a phenomenal coach. Personally, I think he's the best in college football this year, and he is the best right now. Now, with that being said, if Travis Etienne can't get it going, they can't get the ball to Austin Delp, I don't see a way Georgia can win the game. And if Georgia's defense can make the stop that they need to, which I fully believe that they will, I think Georgia's going to end up taking this game, and pretty easily, I'd say. I'd give it around, I'm going to say 35 Georgia. I think that's a lot of points for them, but I think Gunnar Stockton can do it. I'm going to say 35-24 Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's going to get stopped a little bit too much on 3rd and 4th down, and it's going to be too much to overcome for Marcus Freeman. He can't make the calls when he needs to, and that's what it inevitably is going to come down to. Now, for one of my favorite matchups, hypothetical matchups in the second round, I'm going to be talking about Ohio State and Oregon, a rematch in the Rose Bowl, Pasadena, California. I think that this matchup is fireworks for both teams. I think Oregon is going to be fired up from already beating them earlier in the year, and if you don't think that's also going to fire up Ohio State coming in to Pasadena, you're wrong. You're wrong. Ohio State is going to be more motivated than ever to get their rematch and revenge on this Oregon team. I think Dylan Gabriel is a phenomenal quarterback, and I think with how the 12-team college football playoff is formatted, I think it does hurt the teams with the first-round bye. Sure, you get more rest, but you're also going to be a lot more rusty. We've seen in the NFL when teams sit players in week 16 and 17 and now 18. These guys are not, they're well rested, sure, they're fresh for the playoffs, but they're rusty. And that's what eventually catches up to them. They have taken weeks off of football and have not been able to play against game-like competition, be able to go game speed. And I think that's going to catch up to Oregon here. And they're going to drop their first game of the season and their most costly to Ohio State, ending Oregon's run in the Rose Bowl. I think it'll be 52-49. Ohio State wins it. Now it's time to talk about probably my favorite matchup if it were to happen in this college football playoff. The ASU Sun Devils, who I am lucky enough to go see multiple games of this year, and the Texas Longhorns, who have, again, quarterback troubles when it seems to matter most in this playoff. Now, with ASU getting the bye, I think it helps them a lot. Unlike Oregon, who had the toughest path to the playoff, I just don't think it benefits Oregon in the ways it needs to. I think Arizona State is going to come out shooting, and they're going to come out and absolutely attack this Texas team like they haven't seen before. I think with Jordan Tyson being down the field, you got Sam Leavitt at quarterback and Cam Scatterbo. These guys can light you up if you're not careful, as well as Xavier Guillory. These guys are dangerous if you let them into the backfield. Jordan Tyson, questionable for the game, probably out, and I think Guillory is going to have to step up, as well as their star tight end. And Mateer, ASU has dangerous guys in dangerous positions. Now, with that being said, Texas also has dogs on their defensive end to match up well. Texas can absolutely shut you out, as they have with multiple teams this season. We've seen it with Kentucky. Granted, Kentucky's terrible, but we've seen it with Kentucky, Mississippi State, Florida. Like these teams, take it with a grain of salt. They have not been too good, but they've also shut out Georgia in the SEC championship. Their offense, granted, wasn't enough to get it done, and they did what they needed to. Now, with that being said, I think Texas can overwhelm you in the right spots in this game if you're ASU, and I think it'll be enough for Texas to get to the next round. Texas kind of just game managing, getting there. But you don't get anywhere in life if you don't take any chances with how you pick. And I like Cam Scatterbo. I like Xavier Guillory. I like Mateer. And I love Sam Leavitt at quarterback. He's a phenomenal scrambler. And I think this gives me glimpses of Michigan TCU. And like they always say, history repeats itself. Give me the Sun Devils to make a monumental upset in this first ever playoff and advance to the semifinals, beating the Texas Longhorns. I'm going to say it'll be 30-27 ASU. For our semifinal matchups, we have Boise State and Georgia, and on the other side of the bracket, we have ASU and Ohio State. I did not think I would be getting into the four teams heading into this, but here we are. I'm going to start with ASU and Ohio State. I think Ohio State is just going to beat the brakes off of them. I think the Cinderella story ends here for Arizona State. Severe underdogs coming into the year. Heck of a season. Great coach. Just phenomenal. With Kenny Dillingham, what he's done, it's amazing. Amazing to see, and I look forward to seeing him next year in a similar spot. I just don't think they have enough this year to get it done. I think Ohio State just shuts them down. They know what they're doing. They've been here before as a program, maybe not with Ryan Day, but they have been here. And I'm going to take them to beat the sleeves off of them in a sense, and I'm going to say they win 42-14 with Ohio State topping Arizona State. Into our next matchup, we got the Georgia Bulldogs and the very own Boise State. I don't know what their name is, but Boise State. We'll say Boise State Ashton Genty. So, with Boise State, Maddox Madsen at QB. We're going to go a little bit more into detail because these are semifinal games. Maddox Madsen at QB. Ashton Genty, it's a two-man game, really. They don't play too much. They have a great wide receiver, Cameron Camper, but do I think these guys can match up with Georgia, the SEC powerhouse? Absolutely not. I think Georgia is going to shut them down, similar to what ASU is going to have happen to them in Ohio State in my hypothetical playoff. I'm going to say that final score is 52-17.
This is the moment we've all been waiting for. The national championship. Who do I have? On one side, we have Ohio State. On the other, we have the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, who do I think matches up better? I would give the edge to Ohio State. I think with Georgia having a backup QB in Gunnar Stockton, I think they're going to have the edge, especially with how great that defense has played this year. Gunnar Stockton, backup QB, hasn't really played too much, not too much experience. But you have guys like Travis Etienne, London Humphreys, Austin Delp. These guys are dogs, and they're going to make the plays down the stretch when it matters. What do I think is going to happen? I think Georgia will get out early, and I think they can keep the lead from there. I think Ohio State's going to have to play from behind, which I'm not sure they can do. They've struggled to do it against Oregon. They struggled to do it against Michigan. Do I think they struggle a third time? Yes, I do. I think Georgia wins the national championship, takes it on to Athens, and from there, Georgia will celebrate that national title in the first ever college football 12-team playoff. With that being said, I could be completely wrong, and I could be out in the first round with SMU losing to Penn State. Let me know what you guys think down below and who you have as your national champion. So that wraps it up. Thanks for watching.